Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're really digging into Aston Martin F1. There's quite a bit happening there, looking at their current challenges, but also, maybe more importantly, gearing up for that huge rule change in 2026.
Yeah, exactly. We've got some interesting angles. Fernando Alonso, his incredible longevity, Adrian Newey arriving, and also a look at the big picture, the challenges, and the opportunities for them heading towards 2026.
Right. So our plan is to unpack all of that, get the different viewpoints, and figure out what it really means for the team down at Silverstone. Okay, so let's dive in. Starting with Alonso seems right. His career, his motivation, it's pretty remarkable.
It really is. I mean, 411 Grand Prix entries. That number alone is just, wow. And the key thing is, he still sounds completely driven. He's quoted asking, why would I stop now?
Yeah.
It says it all, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And you think about how valuable that sheer experience must be, especially with huge regulation changes coming. He's seen it all before.
Yeah, and he still draws on those past battles, like that Imola fight with Schumacher back in '05. He remembers it so clearly, holding off Michael lap after lap. That competitive fire, it's obviously still right there.
20 years ago. Amazing. And he mentioned Flavio Briatore, too, part of that Renault era.
That Imola win was massive for him, wasn't it? Really set him on the path to that first title. Showed he could handle the pressure.
Definitely. And, well, contrast that with now. Arriving in Imola this year with no points for Miami. Tough weekend there.
Yeah, bit disappointing. But his focus, you can tell, is shifting more and more towards 2026. He's already been driving it in the sim.
Right. The current car, the AMR 25, it seems like everyone acknowledges it has, let's say, inherent limitations under these current rules.
That's the phrase used, yeah. Probably something fundamental they can't unlock much more from right now.
But Alonso, he still drags performance out of it. Look at SQ3 in Miami. Getting into the top 10 like that takes some doing.
Absolutely. Pure fighting spirit.
Yeah,
it kind of reminds you of his early days, actually.
With Minardi, yeah. The uncertainty, the lack of resources compared to today.
Totally. That little story about his mom buying his first suitcase.
Yeah.
It really brings home how far he's come. Just a kid hoping to make the first race.
It does. And him saying it took 2 seasons before he even felt like a proper pilot shows you the learning curve back then.
And how his perspective's changed. He used to say he wouldn't race past 40.
Huh. And now, who knows how long he'll keep going. Never say never, right?
Especially not with him.
Mm-hmm.
And that experience, that perspective, you have to think Adrian Newey will want to tap into that.
Good transition. Let's talk about Newey joining Aston Martin. That's huge news.
It really is. His first interview on the team site gives some clues about his role and initial thoughts.
Yes, the title is Technical Partner Director. Sounds quite involved, working directly with Lawrence Stroll, basically shaping the whole technical direction.
Yeah, enhancing skills, improving the engineering side. It's a big remit. And let's be honest, a massive signing for Aston Martin.
Huge. And what were his first impressions? Sounds like he felt quite welcomed.
Yeah, he said very welcoming, mentioned good facilities, enthusiastic people. He sort of contrasted it positively with joining other teams in the past.
That's interesting. A good sign, maybe. Though he did note the rapid growth in staff size that can be tricky to manage, too.
True. Integrating everyone takes effort. But his working method sounds quite structured.
Yeah, he described that 2-pronged approach. One part is the big picture regulations, driver input, design ideas.
And the other is getting stuck in with the engineering departments, looking at their work, debating things, pushing them forward. Sounds very hands-on.
It does, not just sitting in an office designing things in isolation.
Exactly. And while 2026 is clearly the main event for him,
he's not completely ignoring the present.
Apparently not. She acknowledged Stroll wants good results next year, 2025. And there's a small team still working on the current car's aero. He said he's had lunch with them, discussed things. So some input there, even if it's not the priority.
Okay. And the driver chats sound key. Alonso and Stroll.
Definitely. He's been talking to them a lot, trying to get a real feel for the car's strengths, weaknesses, and crucially, how well the simulator matches what happens on track. That correlation is always a big challenge.
Yeah, getting that right is vital. And he thinks that driver feedback is essential for, tweaking the whole engineering setup.
That's what he implied, yeah. Shaping the organization based on what the drivers are feeling and needing.
It's interesting, too, his point about data versus driver intuition.
Right. We have tons of data now, which helps analysis, but he still values that almost subconscious feel the driver has, the little adjustments they make. You need both.
You really do. But okay, back to 2026. That's where the main effort is going.
For sure. He's exploring different development paths, and he's quite open about the uncertainty. You know, will their ideas be better than Red Bulls or Ferraris? He calls that the intrigue of F1, with big rule changes.
It's refreshing to hear that level of honesty, even from him. No guarantees.
None at all. And he mentioned the constraints, too, the budget cap, team size. You can't explore every single idea.
You have to make choices, bet on certain directions, and risk missing something.
Exactly. That's the game. He also talked about how complex the cars are now, how much relies on simulation.
CFD, wind tunnels, the driver-in-loop simulator.
Yeah, all those tools. But he stressed that just having them isn't enough. You need to really understand them, customize them, learn how to use them effectively.
There's a real art to interpreting that data, isn't there?
Absolutely. And then there's the whole mindset thing, building a winning culture in a team that hasn't consistently been at the very front.
How does he see that developing?
He reckons it's not about grand speeches. It's about the work. Building confidence through solid development, showing people their work is making the car faster, believing in themselves collectively.
Makes sense. Build it, don't just talk about it.
Pretty much. And yeah, the image of him turning up in Monaco with his notebook.
Yeah.
Classic Newey, always observing.
Always thinking. Okay, so let's dig into his thoughts specifically on the 2026 rules and, crucially, the Honda partnership.
Right. So initially, he apparently thought the 26 regs looked very prescriptive, locked down.
Okay. But he changed his mind.
Yeah. He said after looking closer, there's actually more flexibility for innovation than it first appears. He compared it to 2022. Remember how different the cars looked initially, before they started converging? He sees potential for that again.
That's interesting. So room for his famous creativity then.
Seems so. And he highlighted the double whammy, big changes to both the chassis and the power unit regulations at the same time.
Which hasn't happened quite like this for a while. He called it interesting and a bit daunting.
Yeah, which sounds about right. He expects opportunities on both sides. Aero solutions could vary a lot, and PU performance might be all over the place initially.
But what about Honda? He's worked with them before, obviously.
He sounds very positive. Expressed a lot of confidence and respect, acknowledged they took a year out, need to catch up maybe, but called them a great group of engineers, an engineering-focused company. That sounds like a good foundation for the partnership starting next year.
It really does. That relationship will be critical.
Totally. And of course, his little joke.
Yes. The 2026 car will be.
Agreed.
Glad we cleared that up. Okay, but let's get another perspective now. Bob Bell, Aston's technical director executive, he offers maybe a more grounded view.
I think that's fair. He was quite candid, saying the 2026 changes are a greater challenge for Aston Martin than for other teams.
Why specifically for them?
Because they have so many different things they need to bring together simultaneously. His words were, many pieces of the puzzle that we must fit together.
Okay, so it's about the sheer scale of their internal changes happening alongside the regulation changes.
Precisely. He confirmed they made a strategic call to really prioritize 2026, which meant carrying over more parts to this year's AMR 25, and being really careful where they put their resources for the 26 car. He thinks most teams are probably doing something similar, though.
Makes sense. And he talked about the team's transformation since 2021.
Yeah, massive growth in staff, becoming a proper works team, the new factory, the wind tunnel, all huge steps. But, as he pointed out, just having the shiny new facilities isn't enough. You have to make them work efficiently, integrate everything, get the processes right. That takes time and effort.
The wind tunnel example was good. They're still working to get their new one performing at, or better than, the Mercedes one they used to rent.
Exactly. It's not instant. And becoming a works team with Honda, he called it a great opportunity, but also a big task.
Because they have to do a load of stuff they haven't done before. Or not for a long time.
Right. Things like making their own transmission haven't done that since 2008, apparently. A whole new rear suspension design for the Honda PU, their own pit crew equipment, lots of software, all things they used to get from Mercedes as part of the customer engine deal. Now it's all in-house. That's a massive expansion of work.
It really is. Adds another layer of complexity on top of the new rules themselves.
And those rules are complex enough, especially the active aero. Bell mentioned needing tons of simulation, offline and with the drivers, just to understand the implications and set targets.
Which brings us back to the drivers. Alonso and Stroll are involved early.
Very early. Bell said they were in the new sim trying out 2026 concepts back in February.
Wow, that is early.
Yeah, and their feedback right now is vital, he stressed. Because it's not about fine-tuning something they already know. It's about understanding the basic behavior of these completely new designs. What do they feel like? What are the potential pitfalls or advantages?
Their initial reactions could really shape the direction they take.
Absolutely. It has to be a really close collaboration between the drivers and the engineers right from the start on this one.
So, okay, let's try and pull this all together. What does it all mean for Aston Martin? We've got Alonso, still fired up, bringing immense experience. We've got Newey, the design legend, joining the team with a clear vision.
And seemingly quite optimistic about the 26 rules. Surprisingly so, perhaps.
Yeah. Then you have Bob Bell providing that dose of realism, acknowledging the huge mountain they have to climb, integrating everything, becoming a true works team.
The focus is absolutely locked on 2026. Huge investment in people, in facilities.
You put Alonso, Newey, and Honda together. On paper, that looks incredibly potent, doesn't it?
It does. The potential is massive.
Yeah.
But, like Bell said, making all those pieces fit and work together seamlessly.
Yeah.
That's the enormous task ahead.
It's not just about having the ingredients, it's about making the final dish work.
Exactly. It's going to be fascinating to watch how they manage that integration, that development race. Can they really make that leap to consistently challenge at the very front?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? So it leaves you wondering, with such massive changes coming across the whole sport in 2026, what kind of unexpected twists and turns might we see specifically for Aston Martin as that new era kicks off? Could they surprise everyone, or will the integration challenges prove too steep initially?